My name is William Justice and I make videos about filmmaking and Davinci Resolve. I like to give myself challenges to see what I can create. Today we're going to create this 9-way video grid animation and experiment to see what we can do with it using some different transitions and effects. I've added some different clips and previews of videos that I've done. Let's take a look. Are you looking for a new way to showcase your videos, to generate interest, and maybe increase some engagement, or even maybe transition between different video segments that you're doing? I've had this idea in my head for a while, so I thought I'd put it together and give it a try. We can set up some really interesting transitions between each of the videos. Okay, the video grid is pretty easy to make. Hopefully it doesn't look too bad. I'm using the free version of Davinci Resolve. Yeah, I'll probably be upgrading soon because with the studio version we'll be able to create higher resolution timelines, which would help out with the grid setup. The video grid, it may remind you of this, or this.
Airline for the block!
If you're new to my videos and like what I'm doing, please subscribe, comment below. I'd love to hear from you. I'm having a ton of fun creating Davinci Resolve, Fusion, and filmmaking videos. The video grid is a great way to showcase different concepts at the same time. It can give viewers a quick preview of what's coming up, which can build interest and anticipation for what you're going to be doing later on in the video. I've added just a few of the YouTube videos that I've done in some of the areas around in the grid. Before I show you how I created this video, let's check out some of the other videos I've done. Plasma text animation, real paper tear transition, animated fog, Fusion graphics animation tutorials, blood overlays, and much, much more. Okay, let's set up a 9-way video grid animation. Before getting into the editor, you want to make sure you have a plan for where each of the videos is going to go. I made a quick sketch on a piece of paper. It's not great, but it's enough to get me started. To set this up, we're going to use 3 separate timelines. There's a background timeline, a sequencing timeline, and then a timeline that we're going to use to animate the grid. I set it up this way to make it easier to manage, and it also makes it a lot easier to reuse the setups if you want to put it in different parts of your video. The background timeline will have short clips of each video in the grid, and it can be repeated and used whenever you need. It goes behind everything, so you want to choose clips that are interesting that have a lot of movement to go into the background. We're going to use the sequencing timeline to position our main clips in the order that we want them to play. The main clips are the ones that we want the viewer to focus on. They're going to be the clips that have the audio and other things in them. In the animation timeline, we're going to set up the main video, the zoom in, zoom out, adjusting grid positions, adding effects, sound effects, and things like that. Okay, let's set up we're going to start by setting up the background timeline. So we're going to right click in the media pool area on timelines and hit create new timeline. We're going to call the timeline background. And then we're going to go into the custom settings, click use custom settings, format, and we're going to choose Ultra HD, and that's going to get us a 4K clip. I would like to do a higher resolution one, but because this is the free version of Davinci Resolve and not the studio, I don't think we can make a higher resolution than this, and I'll explain why that's important in just a bit. But this is good enough to get the concept across to kind of test out the idea. Okay, so we're in the background timeline and we're going to be adding in our clips. The background timeline goes behind everything, so you want to choose clips that are interesting. You really don't need to worry too much about what part of what clip is showing at each part of the video. Just needs to look interesting and have a little bit of movement. So since our grid has nine sections in it, we're going to create 9 video tracks. So we're going to say add tracks, and we already have 1 track, so we just need to add 8 more above video 1, and there we go. So right here we have our 8 tracks. Okay, we'll go to the first track and we'll go into this clips. These are just some random clips that I used to create this. And we can put them in here. The order doesn't matter here. We're going to move them around in just a second. So we'll go ahead and add this clip in. Let me zoom in. We'll get it right there. Let's see, this is a minute something long. So really we probably only need, cut this, we probably need about 30 seconds or so. So we'll kind of go out to there and cut that. And we're going to delete these parts out. And it looks like we got about 27 seconds. Okay, so that should be fine. Now with this background, we don't need the audio. So we're going to right click on this and say unlink the clips. So that's unchecked. Select the audio and we can just delete it. So we have our first clip in here. So we'll go ahead and add the next clip right here. I have it in the viewer up here because I'm going to show you how to add this without the audio. So we're going to set it in in point and an out point. And when you hover over here, there's this waveform and then a video. So if you just want the video only, you can take this and drag it into the timeline, and the audio is not going to be there. And then we can adjust this clip and move it around if we need to. So I'm going to go ahead and add the rest of these real quick. Okay, so those are the videos of where I'm kind of looking around. Now the other clips we were going to put in is some clips from some of the previous videos that I've done. So I'm going to put these in. Now this is where I'm going to show you to do, so we can take, so we'll take this clip that I did and we'll just kind of drag the whole thing in. We'll unlink it and we're going to go down to the bottom and delete out the audio. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this up. Just make a few cuts in here, just some random places. Delete these out. And this is going to be only a background part, so we don't need to worry about what's going to go in it too much right now. Okay, when we're going to take this and line it up. So you notice that we have kind of three separate segments here. The way this works is we want this to kind of be one video, so that's going to enable us to take this and scale it and move it. So we're going to need to make a compound clip. So anything that's not, it's on its own, that has these segments broken up, we need to highlight these clips, right click on it, and say new compound clip. And we're going to give it a name. We'll call it paper because this was my paper video. Now it's one single clip and we're going to be able to adjust it and move all of those around together. So I'm going to go ahead and see, we got, looks like we got 5 clips in here. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other 4 real quick. And I keep forgetting to use the option to auto unlink that clip to do the video only. Anyway, okay, so here we go. We got our 9 clips loaded. So just remember, anything that's multiple segments, you need to put them together and turn them into a compound clip so that you can move them as a unit. So like here where we do the inspector, we can take this one and we can zoom in and out on this specific one, even if it was made up of multiple cuts. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is scale each of these clips down. And I played around with this and I figured out the scaling that works best for this setup. And it's going to be 0.32. So that's going to scale it down right here to a little bit under 1/3 of the screen. And this is where we're going to lose some of our resolution, because this is a 4K timeline and we're basically scaling these clips down to 1/3 size. They're actually going to be smaller than 1080. And that means that when we scale it back up we're to a 1080 timeline and we want to zoom in all the way to this image, we're going to lose a little bit of resolution, but it probably doesn't look too bad, at least for this test. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to copy that, and we're going to paste the attributes onto all of these clips so that they'll all shrink down. So we're going to highlight them all. We did a shift click to select them, right click, and we're going to say paste attributes. And we're going to paste the zoom and apply. So what that did is that took all the clips and shrunk them down. The next step is we just need to take each of the clips and position them and put them in the right spot. So you can see that we're going to use the X and Y position to move them around. So anything on the left-hand side is negative, anything on the right, to the right of X, is positive, and the same thing for the Y. Negative is down below and positive is above. Now I kind of figured out what spacing to use, and I'm just going to go ahead and set that to all these clips. So for this clip right here, I'm going to take a look at my chart, and this one goes in the upper left-hand corner. So we're going to set the X position to -1260, and the Y position is going to be 720. And that puts it right up there in the upper left-hand corner. Now, so to move basically, I'm just going to do that for all of these videos, and I'm just going to position them. So if we wanted this video to be like over here on the right-hand side, Y is going to be 0. Like that, and then we're going to set the X position to 1260, and we moved right back over there. I'm going to put it back. I just undid that, and I'm going to go through and just position each of these videos. They're either going to be 0, 1260, or 720 plus minus and we're going to get them set up. Okay, so we got the basic grid set up, and what this is just going to play in the background. There's just going to be some movement, and this is the background timeline. Now, when I originally set this up, everything ran pretty slow, and I think it's because there was a lot going on in this background. So it might help out a bit by rendering this complete timeline out as a separate clip and then re-importing it as one clip. I think it would perform probably a little bit better. Okay, let's go back. Okay, so now this is our background timeline. The next step is to set up our sequencing timeline. And to do that, we're going to right-click in the media pool area, click Create New Grid, and we're going to call this Sequence. And we're going to go ahead and hit Custom Settings, and it's going to be another 3840 2160 Ultra HD, so it's going to be a 4K, and we're going to add that in. So into the sequencing timeline, we're going to add the background. That's going to be we're going to hook. So we got about our 27 seconds there, and it can really be whatever length you want. So if the video you're making is longer than this, all you're going to do is copy this, and we can use it as many times as we want, and it's going to be underneath the main animations. So we'll hit Control C to copy it, and then Control V, and we'll paste another copy, and one more. Okay, let's take a look. So this is going to be the background, and it'll just keep repeating. Okay, so this is what I call the sequencing timeline, and this is where we're going to actually place the main clips that we want to focus on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take each of these background timelines, and we're going to drop the opacity way down so that we can kind of see really what we're working on. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a clip in the middle, add a clip over here to the left, and maybe a couple more down here, and we're going to animate around between those. So we got to set the timing up for each of those clips. So we're going to take this clip and put it into the timeline, and it goes right at the beginning. And this is just where
different clips and previews of videos that I've done.
Now, this is overlaying everything, so obviously we need to get it to fit into the grid, and that's really easy to do. We select the clip, we're going to go to the inspector, and all we got to do is set the zoom to 0.32. And there we go. So we have that clip right in the middle, and you'll see that's why I dimmed these other ones, so we'll be able to see where these are. Now the next clip is going to be this one right here, where I'm over on, and that's going to be to the left. Do a bunch of pointing maneuvers here. Okay, so we're going to do this clip. Let's we'll mark that as the. Okay, so we'll drag this one in. And we're going to want to overlay these just a touch so that they'll be on the screen at the same time. And this is where you have to do a little bit of the timing based on what your dialogue is and everything. So okay, this one is larger, so we just need to shrink it down. Go to the inspector. 0.32 is our scale. And then we just need to move this one on top of this clip here on the background. And we're going to do that by setting the X position to -1260. So we're going to go
Videos that I've done
from that clip to that clip right there. And then that one, it's going to points down and to the right over here. So we're going to do this clip here where I'm wearing the red shirt. So we're going to take this one and drag it in and slide it right underneath the other one. And they're not really going to be on top of each other because they're in different positions. So we'll go ahead and take the one in the red shirt, go to the inspector, we'll zoom it to 0.32, and then we're going to move this one to 1260 and minus 720. And then we got it. So we have 3 clips. Just like that. So this is how you're setting up the sequence. So any other clips or timing, that sort of thing, you'd want to build it right here. And we're going to bump the opacity up back to 1 so that they're all visible. We're going to go back and we're going to create the animation timeline. Right click on the media pool, timelines, create new timeline. And this time we're going to call it animation. This one does not need to be 4K because we're going to be creating a 1080 video. So we don't need to go into the custom settings. We'll create the timeline. Okay, now it's time to set up the animation. So we've got the animation timeline created, and we're going to take the sequence clip that we set up. And so because the sequence is one clip, we're going to be able to zoom in to certain areas and zoom out. We can adjust the position, change the rotation, adjust the pitch and yaw. We can crop it. We can do lots of things. We could even take it into Fusion and go crazy. But we're going to keep this pretty simple for now. So let's go to the beginning. What we're going to set up is we're going to do a little zoom in to the clip in the middle, slide over to the right, and then back down over to the bottom. I mean, slide over to the left and then back down to the bottom right. So with the sequence clips selected, we're going to do we're going to keyframe the zoom and go to the point where I look over to the side right in there. So right before that, we're going to do let's see, we'll zoom in a little bit like that. Okay, that looks pretty good. So one thing you get with each of these keyframes, we're on the first frame right now. To smooth out the animation and not have it be so linear, we're going to use some curves, and there's a quick way to do that. If you right click on this keyframe dot, you can do ease out and then go to the next keyframe by hitting the 0, and we can right click on that and choose ease in. And what that did is when we hit Shift C to see the curves, it actually created a curve there. So a lot of times I use that when I don't need to be super precise with the timing of the curve, and it's a quick way to just nice smooth animation, just like that. So we'll close that out, and this is where our keyframes are right here. So the next thing we want to do is we're going to be sliding over to the left side right when I look like that. So we're going to keyframe the position, and we're going to use this anchor point here, and there's a reason we're doing this. When you zoom in, it always zooms in to where the anchor point is. So right now when we zoom in and out, it's zooming in right to the center. So what happens is if we move over to, say, the left-hand side over here, and we try to do the zoom, it's actually zooming into a different point. You see that it's kind of zooming into right where the middle is. So we don't want that. Now I've kind of figured out what the positions are for the X and Y, and they're going to be different because this is a 1080 timeline. So what we're going to do is we're going to set this to minus 620 for the X. Actually, we're going to set it to 620 for the X position, and the anchor point we're going to set it to minus 620. I played around with this a little bit to kind of figure out what the numbers need to be. So now that the anchor point is right in the middle, if we do any zooming in and out, you'll see it happens right on the clip that we want. So you can see we've transitioned to that clip. Actually, but you double click on the position, that resets it to 0. So now, and we need to do the same thing with the anchor point. Okay, so now, what we're going to do the slow zoom in, and then it's going to shoot over to the left like that. Now we can adjust these keyframes. If we want it to be a little faster, we can move that in, and it'll flip a little faster. I think I want it a little quicker. A bit. Okay. Now we're going to go to the point where I point kind of down and to the other side there, right there. Okay, so we're going to keyframe the scale, position, and anchor point, and go ahead, go forward about 5 or 6 frames, and I'm going to use the same numbers I had before, except we're going to make this minus 620, and the anchor point is going to be 620. And I just played it. I kind of had to do a little calculations and play around with the numbers to make sure they were right. And then the other number for the Y that we want to do is going to be 360. And the anchor point is going to be minus 360. And that puts us down on this clip here. So what we have is down to the side like that. And we can do all kinds of stuff. Like, so once we get to this point, we could go forward a few frames and, you know, keyframe these guys and maybe go a little bit more. Maybe we could zoom out a bit like that. Really whatever animation you want to do. The other thing I did for each of these is I kind of set up a directional blur, kind of help the effect a little bit. And the way I did that is I did it with an adjustment layer. So I went to the effects library, and on the effects menu, I got an adjustment clip and put that right on top of the, and we're going to go right about there, and we'll go ahead and cut that. And on this adjustment clip, I added a blur effect. So we go to Open Effects, and I did a directional blur, and I put that on there. So the directional blur is on the adjustment clip. I dragged it on. We'll go to Open Effects and make sure we're clip, and we'll crank up the blur strength. And I adjusted the angle to be about the angle that the clip was moving. And for border type, you can choose one that's not blacked out. So now you can see that when we do it, we get a little blur as we're going. And to have the blur come in gradually, I got the adjustment clip and I just took these handles and dragged them in, and that allows the effect to kind of get stronger over time and then kind of fade out when it gets to the end. And then I also added some sound effects. So that's the basics of how it works. If we wanted, when we got to this point, if we wanted to go back to the middle, we could go over a few more frames and basically just reset all of these positions, and it's going to slide back to the middle, just like that. So that's the basics of how it is. It depends on what you want to do with it and how you're going to sequence your clips. So if you end up using this or have some other ideas on it, please let me know. I'd love to see what you're doing. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like what I'm doing, please subscribe, comment below. I'd love to hear from you. I've also included some links to some different videos I've done. Up here we have my graphic animation tutorial with Fusion, and down below we have a video that YouTube thinks you might like. Thanks for watching.